All right, let's call this meeting of the Orange Township Board of Trustees to order. Today is Monday, January 13th. It's 5:01 p.m. Ms. Batten, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Knapp.
Here.
Trustee Faust.
Here.
Trustee Ringel.
Here. Would everyone please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We only have one agenda item for this evening. It's the discussion and possible action on a replacement for Fire Station 362. I believe we have several presentations from our fire chief, our operations manager, and our fiscal officer about the topic. So without further ado, I'll turn the meeting over to Chief.
Thank you, Board. Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone that came from the public. Also, of course, the fire department, some of our union members, one of our public safety committee members, Amelia, and also Tim Beeman from App Architecture. So I appreciate everybody coming. So we'll get started with the presentation of where we're at today with 362, how we end up with coming before you this evening to talk about the replacement of 362. So first we'll talk about the history of 362 to get a better understanding where we came from. We'll talk about where we're at today, and then I'll turn it over to Silas for his about the future of 362. So to get started with, there's a older picture of 362, which is located on 7307 South Old State. It opened in 1986. So the building over near the tracks over there where Back 3 is currently was the original building that opened in 51 where it all started. And then we moved into this building in 1986. This building was actually built as a for Township Hall, but it was also built with an area for the volunteer fire departments. And I key in on that volunteer fire department because at the time it was only volunteers with less than 20 members part of the volunteer department. So the north side was built as Township Hall. It contained the administration offices, a large meeting room for trustee meetings, and then the south side of the department was built for the volunteer fire department and included a small kitchen, TV room, restrooms, chief's office, and it had an additional office with a radio room and storage room. And then, of course, the 3 bays for the trucks. The population at the time was approximately 1941, and we had 73 annual calls in 1986. Over the years, as we continued to grow, we saw the need, at the time, would have been Fire Chief Bill Noble, saw the need for a 24-hour service. It started off in 1992 actually as a daytime service that the firefighters were hired full-time to work during the daytime, but then in 1998, decided to go 24/7 with the need of the community growing. And we transitioned from that daytime to 24 operations. And when they did that, in the building, they took the additional office and turned into a bunk room for 3 beds. So it's like 3 firefighters that would be there for 24 hours. So that was the first renovation that happened. In 2000, between 2000 and 2002, so it was supposed to started in 2000, the discussion, but it got delayed. Finally in 2002 is when they did the big renovation. That is when the township was moving over here to its new facility, and the building 7307, which became Fire Station 362, was renovated to fit the station on both sides. So we took over the north side of the building, complete renovation of the kitchen, radio room, and living quarters to house 9 firefighters, and we added a lieutenant's office on the north side also. In 2003, put a new roof on the facility. 2005, all cement because of the previous school that was there. The cement had to be done, some of it was sinking in, so they redid the cement. And then, so all those were completed up through 2005. In 2006, the township hired the Kramer and Associates to come in and do a master planning for the department. And during that master planning, And at the time in 2006, to mind you, we had 1,666 annual calls. The master plan stated that 362 does not meet many of the standards for current use, safety, and training. The station will eventually need substantial modification or replacement. So in 2006, after that report was done in 2008, renovations were done. However, these renovations were completely cosmetic. There was no substantial modification or replacement as called for in the concern of a third party. So exterior was painted, interior bay was painted, was repainted. The interior bay was redone, the floor. Township room was converted to a gear room. Another township room was converted to a training room, and renovations on the restrooms on the south and north sides. And the following are some pictures of the renovations that were done. So there's the bay. As you can see, it was just basically updated with whiter walls compared to the yellow color that was in there. Left side is what was a room in the township room, and then that's the existing training room on the bottom, and then the bathrooms, and then the updated bathroom. So today we have a population of about 38,000 people. Last year we had 2,961 calls. 1,168 of them were fire hazard rescue calls, and 1,801 were EMS calls. So since 1986, when this station was built to house the township and a place for the volunteer firefighters to meet, and remember, they only met once a month for a meeting and then training. Since 1986, and all of these changes have happened, 3 renovations, plus not to mention some of the renovations that the firefighters did themselves to try to make it last longer and to make their living environment better. We're still here with the same building that was built for volunteer fire departments all these years later. And even though, as we said, a substantial modification was done in between 2000 and 2002 to create it from a township building to a fire department only. 2006, it was deemed that it needed to be either replaced or substantial modifications. It never did happen. So today we have growing population, continued growth and construction, and we're still working on the same facility. Next slide. So here are the concerns that we have. So the facility is not being used for what it was intended for. It was intended for an occasional use for township meetings and firefighters to meet for training once a month. It's inefficient for the 24-hour operations. So we have a 1980s pole barn construction type, and the plumbing, heating, cooling not designed for a number of people in occupancy 24/7. Every year we run into plumbing issues because it's a 350-gallon tank that's put in there that was put in place when the building was built, and we have to get it pumped every year because we run into issues with it basically overflowing, and it's not keeping up with having 6 to 8 firefighters in there 24/7. Another big concern is it lacks today's standard fire department building designs that address many of the job hazards that firefighters face. So proper ventilation. Ventilation has become a major concern for the fire department, especially with everything with carcinogens. When you come back from a fire, just what's coming off our gear was also coming off of us as we walk out of our gear into the shower, the living area. This does not have a proper decon room where we can go in and decon ourselves before we go into our living quarters. So there is not proper hazardous material mitigation. There is cross-contamination is a big deal over here, because not only do we have the proper things in place that help protect firefighters today, especially with all the studies that have occurred and all the concerns since this was built in '86 and redone in 2002, but living quarters, where all our living quarters is now in one area, we have, as you can see in the pictures that were up there, there's basically a blanket that's dividing each living quarter. So people come back from a call, if they're sick, it's just like at home. When your kid gets it, everybody else gets it, and that's what happens a lot here at the station. So, and the health and wellness, both physical and mental. So we always talk about the physical concerns of any type of, when we're out on runs, dealing with carcinogens, dealing with everything, possibly people getting, a substance on them from a patient and everything, and then bring it back into your living quarters, walking through your living quarters to get to a bathroom. So there's a lot of concerns with that, but also the mental side. I think what a lot of people, forget about these firefighters here is that this is their home. It's their second home. Sometimes they're there more than they are at their actual home. And when they come back from call, the men and women of Orange Township, whether it's a fire, whether it's performing CPR on a 6-week-old baby that doesn't make it, they're looking for somewhere to come home and just relax, sit back, and deal with their emotions and deal with the mental side of this job. And unfortunately, if you have been in 362, you can see it's very hard for any of them to get back and walk in and have that peace where they can walk into a room, shut the door, whether it's cry, whether it's get angry, whatever they need to do to get that out, they're not able to do that over there. So there's a lot of things that are being put into these new buildings and these thoughts that when they're building buildings now that really geared towards the mental health side of the firefighter. And that's one of the big concerns as I look at this building when we go over there to visit and stuff is, not only the physical aspect, not only the fact that the building was built for a totally different intent of a non-24/7 operation, but the fact that these firefighters have to come home to that and walk in after the worst call, maybe the worst thing they've ever dealt with, and that's where they go and try to unwind, de-escalate. And I just don't think it's feasible anymore after all these years, and I think that we need to do something different. So, proposal is to replace the current facility with a new facility. We want to replace it with a building that's going to last 50+ years, a building that meets current safety and best practice standards, and a building that will facilitate anticipated growth of the township in both residential and businesses, and also a building that facilitates the efficient operations. And when I say efficient operations, I not only mean us responding to the calls, but the efficient operations for when these guys and girls come back, that they can unwind and prepare for the next call that comes in. So the next question, the next thing up. Sorry. So this is what, working with app architecture in the initial plot. So this is right below the current 362 on Orange, right next to the memorial. You can see the memorial to the left there. And this is where we're looking at building a new 362 to replace the old 362. So what about the current 362 facility that we're currently in? I'll turn that over to Silas for his.
Thank you, Chief. The fire department obviously takes care of a lot of different things and sees a lot more than the Parks Department does. But one of the cool things about this opportunity to have a discussion about the fire station is to potentially fill another need. And selfishly, as the Director of Operations overseeing our Parks Maintenance and Facilities Department, all the concerns about their facility, they kind of hit, right? Our Parks Department operates out of these two facilities right here. These are two garages that were designed for storage. One just on the side of Township Hall Park here, and the other one over at North Orange Park. And I don't know if I have a laundry list of concerns that Chief has, but here are some of the concerns that they have trying to maintain a 24/7 fire department operation. Our concerns are a little bit different, but a lot of the concerns they have about their facility are benefits to the current park setup. As you saw in those two garages, that's all they have. They have the two garages, they jam their gators, their vehicles in there. If you can go back one picture, I just want to highlight one thing. On the picture on the right, that is our building here. When the van was bought a few years ago, it's probably been 8 or 10 years ago, we actually had to go in and lower the suspension on the van so it would actually go and clear the garage space to get it stored inside. So it doesn't make it in there every day, depending on how much is loaded in there and how much is not. So a lot of our vehicles, a lot of our equipment is outside. It's scattered between the two places. And on the next slide, it's scattered into these storage bins as well, which we have that sit next to our public works facility. So just a couple highlights of some of the challenges we face having people and facilities and equipment in different areas. You know, Chief hit on something real important, which is the efficiency. You know, we spend a lot of time from a park standpoint maintaining our 112 acres, going between different facilities, picking up a mower going there, picking up this, putting it on a trailer, dragging it where we can work on it. When we work out of the garages, there's some minimal maintenance we can do. The vast majority of our maintenance is done in our public workshop. That's where our tools are. That's where all of our equipment is. That's where our fuel pumps are. So there's a lot of time spent going back and forth between different areas and doing different things. But at the same time, the garages that we're working out of weren't designed to house a staff. They were designed really to be garages, to be storage. I don't know if anybody has a garage at home that has a bathroom in it. I don't. Our guys at their current garage setup don't have running water. They don't have restrooms. They don't have break rooms. They don't have an opportunity to spread out or do anything. So I won't go into any slides about how important having a bathroom around is when you need it. But we can all imagine that, how tough that would be to work out of a place that doesn't have those amenities. So we're obviously pretty cramped, taking care of 112 acres of parks, with all of our mowers, all of our trucks, all of our vehicles, equipment. Those guys also help with our snow removal as well. So the opportunity to look at 362 kind of centralizes the operations of the township with the one fire station right next to our public works facility, and moving our parks into the potentially vacated 362 building is kind of an exciting upgrade for us. You know, it may not be perfect for fire, but it is a significant upgrade for our parks department. We did look a few years ago at what it would cost to build a basic pole structure just to house our basic needs for the parks department. We were looking at doing it up at North Road Park, and it was in excess of $500,000, $750,000 just to put up a pole structure with a single stall in it in an office space. So obviously we didn't pursue that. This conversation kind of comes to head today with an opportunity to help our parks department and help our facilities by utilizing an existing township facility that may not be up to snuff for what our fire folks need, but it would be a definite boost for our parks department. So, I hit on some of the concerns. A lot of benefits here as well. Again, basic stuff, having indoor plumbing, having a break room, having a restroom. Those things are obvious, but somehow that's the shape we're in right now. So obviously this is a big boost for us. I mentioned having the adjacent setup to not only the 362, but also our public works facility, so we can share equipment, share facilities, share our resources as a township, so we're not replicating those and buying new sets of tools for each building we're trying to work out of. Again, we do handle the snow removal as well with our parks maintenance and facilities. They kind of tag team with our public works during the last few weekends here in snowstorms like we have here. But I think kind of the big thing for us is just kind of taking something the township already has and repurposing it to help the community and to be more efficient with our time and our resources, and kind of empower our staff to be everything we want them to be as a township. Thank you.
Do we want to discuss finances next, or do we want to ask any questions initially? I think we could just go into a financial presentation first.
Is there any rendering of it, how it would look from street level?
No, sorry. So we completed a preliminary study. The board approved that last year. The preliminary study included cost estimates as well as a site plan and the interior floor layout. But we didn't get to the step for the building elevations.
Would it block the Veterans Memorial from a certain angle?
No, it shouldn't.
Should, okay. I have more questions, but I'll wait till the end.
So we'll turn the meeting meeting over to Fiscal Officer Bett.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have any wonderful slides like everybody else has. But just some very preliminary information with regards to this project. We would probably need much more, we would need a commitment from the board to really move forward and to be able to present actual numbers to you. We met with Bradley Payne. They presented us with 3 different financing options. One option would be a public sale of bonds in conjunction with the Delaware County Treasurer's Office. Second option for us would be a public sale of bonds, and a third option would be a private placement as going to a bank for a loan to pay for this. Unfortunately, the township is not in the position to pay for this project in its entirety with its cash reserve balances. We're still in the process of closing out 2024, but preliminary, we're looking at roughly about $30 million of all funds. Now, with that being said, only one fund is unrestricted, and that is our general fund. And currently, our general fund has roughly about $12 million that we will be rolling over into the new year. So while when you look at our finances, you say $30 million, why can't we just go ahead and pay cash for that? All those other funds are restricted special revenue funds set aside for other purposes, roads, parks. We have our American Rescue Plan Act. We have some other projects, the Veterans Memorial projects. So unfortunately, paying cash and just building it and going is not going to be an option for us. I would like, and I think once we get the books closed and we have those final numbers, I would feel, and once I get a better direction from the board on how they would like to proceed, I would like for a shared expense between the general fund and our fire fund with regards to a down payment and possible moving forward with the month or the yearly payments for this station.
Michelle, would you mind bringing back up the preliminary budget cost summary?
Yes.
So the total there, project total estimate, and this includes a 5% construction and odor contingency. So the total that we're looking at is close to 14 million with that design that was also up on the screen earlier.
Correct. Yeah, and I will say, again, these are estimates. I believe the consultant and the team try to go over conservative approach to this. I don't know if this is going to be the exact cost by any means, but we would need to go out to bid and look once we understand what the hard construction cost is. That'll definitely give us some more fixed numbers, but this is a rough estimate with an over-conservative approach.
Have we done any value engineering yet?
No.
Okay.
No, because we would have to go out to bid to spend more than the 50,000. 50? Okay.
And the potential financing projections that we've received so far, were those for 13 million flat?
There's a couple models that we ran. I think all of them were 13 million.
Yes,
right? Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Everything is based upon a $13 million project. We initially, we had a 20-year period. Just a quick, just to kind of give you a little bit of reference of what we're looking at here. Working with the Delaware County Treasurer's Office, they were proposing a 20-year payback period with roughly about a 5.35% interest. That would yield an over $9 million of interest being paid back. We ran a scenario with the original $13 million project with a $4 million down payment in a 10-year period. That dropped an estimated interest rate down to 4% with a total payback of $2 million in interest. So we have options that will definitely cut down those high interest payments. I feel confident after working with Chief McNeil on his 2025 budgets. We really sharpened his pencil on that. We were looking at ways that if this is how we're going to be moving forward, where we can utilize a little bit of his fire and a little bit of the excess from the general fund.
So what would the payments be per year with the 20-year or the 10-year plan?
The 10-year plan, we would have a total, so the township would do a $4 million down payment, a principal of $9 million with interest at $2,096,000 with a total of $11,096,000. And that's obviously at today's current rates and, you know, depending on how quickly this project goes, very, very rough estimates.
So that would be like $1.1 million per year payment?
Yes.
And the public offering would be over a 20-year period?
They presented us with a 20-year period. We were looking at a $5 million down payment. So principal would be $8 million. Total interest on that was $4,300,000 with a total repay of $12,301,000. I feel like I feel that the 10-year offers and will lower and give us a better interest payback. But I would need a commitment from the board and, you know, chief, that this is how we're going to move forward. Like, we're going to do a shared repayment plan for this project to move forward.
So basically sharing that 1.1 million per year. And this year, I
Yes.
know when we did the budget, we budgeted right around $1 million with
Yes.
50% from you guys, from general and 50% from fire, so 500. So that's lines up fairly closely with what we budgeted for 2025.
Yeah, and we should be able to use some of that outside of the loan for the architectural engineering phase of it this year. So in theory, we would probably lock in the loan later, or really towards the end of this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll need to have those preliminary engineering costs before you guys can lock anything in.
Right.
But the debt service might be a little closer to 1.2 with updated, financing costs, because from my understanding of what's currently being proposed for costs, it's actually 14 million that we're looking at financing, not 13 million.
We can tighten our belts.
Did we?
I don't know that we have $1 million that we can value engineer out, but that's a lot.
Yeah, there are some options. I mean, we could look at, if you really want to tighten your belt, we could really dive into seeing what we can do with those soft costs. Obviously, hard costs, we're not going to have as many options. But we can see what we can do. But I feel confident.
Yeah, and we had the analysis run at 13 million, and if we were to go with a $14 million project, that we did a budget $1 million this year for those services. So in my mind, I didn't think to have that as part of the loan. So, but again, these are also very rough estimates
Right.
that.
And this
It could.
13 is the almost 14 million is inclusive of the design, permitting, all that kind of stuff, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, everything.
So we would basically pay that this year
From
from
a
the
chair
budget.
to,
Right.
from as small as a chair to as big as the whole building.
Right, but the design fee, the permitting fee, all that kind of stuff, that would be paid with the 2025 money that we've already budgeted this year.
Potentially, yeah, it just depends on when the invoices would come
Yeah,
in.
would come in.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, we would encumber those funds.
Yeah.
And do we have the potential down payment budgeted as well?
No, we do not, but upon reviewing our carryovers, I feel confident that we could, once we get those final numbers, come back to you and say, okay, here, this is what we have. We want to take X amount and move forward with the general fund. We want to take X amount and move forward with the fire fund. I know that we discussed when we were working with the 2025 budget, Chief did you put that in your 5-year projection, didn't you? Yeah, the shared yearly principal payment. We have been fortunate over the years. The general fund has received the excess increased real estate to the revaluation. The township has, the last couple years, has just, the investment portfolio has gone through the roof. 2022, we received just about $300,000 in interest. We're looking to close 2024 with $1.5 million in interest accrued. So those types of efforts are really putting us in a place that we can, if the board chooses to move forward this type of project, we could have that shared expense and costs.
Did you have more questions?
So, as when we met with with Fifth Third, they were talking about how the interest rates are gonna be going down, and we're gonna make less, but do we know how much?
We do
less
not.
we'd be getting?
I am keeping a close eye on that. We have, from my understanding, the feds are not going to meet again until March, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I think the only thing, whereas on one side, yes, it's going to affect our interest earned. But on the other side, Lisa, those interest rates go down, and we do have to borrow these monies. That interest rate as well is going to go down. So hopefully those two will kind of help lessen that blow of not being so, receiving all that, interest income that we've come to expect.
Donna, is it fair to say with our financial planning for this project that we're not expecting that those interest strategy, or how do I say this, the increase in interest that we're receiving currently, we're not expecting that throughout our planning? It would be
No.
a great bonus, but it's not.
No.
We're expecting it as with our existing means.
Yes, yes. Yeah, we're not, this whole project is not based upon us receiving, $1.5 million for the next 10 years in interest. I think the township we've got the extra, we've received the additional monies from the taxes with the increased evals, so that has helped. But yeah, no, it's not based simply upon, hey, we're gonna be getting 1.5 million every year.
So what about putting like a bond issue on the ballot?
That is this option.
Okay.
Well, it's one of those. You could do a bond with a vote or without a vote.
Okay. And so how much is that one?
It's the same.
So I think what I'm hearing is that we can currently afford to finance what's proposed for a 10-year period through a private placement.
Yes.
But we could also put that up to a vote potentially of the township, and then allow the voters to levy additional property taxes to
Yes.
pay for it, rather than taking it out of our current means.
That is correct. You would be creating an additional revenue source
Yeah.
by going to the voters.
Since we have it within our means to potentially finance this, I don't know that we'd want to go back to the ballot.
Yeah, it's just if it's such a huge expenditure, I feel like I definitely want more public input on it.
Yeah,
Which
but
is why we're here, obviously, but, and what is the expense then to furnish, and with all the equipment and everything that would be necessary?
Is that the 430?
Yeah,
Yeah, $430,000 in soft costs.
For everything? Okay,
The interior, yeah.
and we won't be hiring any additional
No,
staff,
yes,
right?
no, this is clear, just the capital improvements. This does not include any additional firefighters at this time. And I would not recommend that until you get the station up and running.
Yeah.
And then take a look at your existing levy and move forward after.
I will say the station that is proposed is for future growth. We're not anticipating increasing the staff immediately today. We want to make sure this project gets through, but it is designed to have more firefighters in that station. I think it's 10 beds. Yeah, 10.
How many is currently in 362? How many beds are there? I know it varies depending on how many, people are there, but.
Currently, it is 10.
Okay.
And they have 2 bunks in one room, and then the other bunk has a total of 6, 7, 7 in one area, in one
Okay.
bunk room, 7 beds.
One of the pictures that was on the slide was some of those in a bigger
Right.
area.
Right, and some of those beds currently are, they're, I've been over there, but was a while ago. You know, they're around filing cabinets and, you know, and then that's over on the north side, right? And then just to reiterate to the community that over on where the bulk of our staff are housed or sleeping, there's, you know, curtains between everyone's room.
I believe the
So-
chief had photos of that in his
Yeah.
presentation at the end.
It's like having a giant sleepover every night
But it's not
With-
really fun.
with your very best friends that you may or may not.
On the south side, that's where the bulk of the
Uh,
sleeping arrangements are.
That's what they look like right now?
Yeah, there should be the hallway picture.
Yeah.
Also.
I think in the middle there. No, the one in the
Down
middle,
more.
that one.
Right.
So those are with the
So
curtains,
that's
some
the-
closed, some
and
open.
then to the right, the curtains are closed.
Yeah.
So behind each curtain is a bunk.
And I had the opportunity, I know Trustee Ringel did as well, to tour a number of area fire stations with Chief and Michelle. And just to reiterate, that is not what fire stations look like these days. And the bunkhouses do not have. Right.
It's in terrible
They
shape.
don't sleep with curtains between their bunks.
Should we open up for public comment and then
Yeah,
ask more questions?
later.
If there's anyone from the public who'd like to make any comment, please feel free to come up to the podium if you wouldn't mind stating your name and address, just so we know where you're from, and then providing the board any feedback that you have. And then if you have questions, we'll be happy to answer them as well, to the best of our ability. So would anyone like to share any comments, questions, concerns?
Bud Abraham, 6205 Storm Haven Court. Just out of curiosity, I'm assuming this property that's proposed here is already owned by the township. So any other sites were not explored as far, and it kind of, to me, just looks a little shoehorned. But just from an overall perspective, there were no other locations or sites examined or reviewed for locating this new station.
Chief, would you like to talk about the location of fire stations?
Yeah, so we did look at a couple areas. So in one of the master plan that was done, I think it was 2008 or 9, there was one, and it actually might have been 07. It was stated that the ideal location would be across from the new school, high school is being built over there. I believe it'd be Walker Woods area, probably. But looking, when you look south on Old State, as far as any, we want to keep it somewhere central, because once you start moving in other directions, your response time to areas, grows, which, and this is a bad thing, so you don't want your response time to grow. So depending on where we put it, if we moved it south, that would leave the north side response time a little more, or if we moved it east. So we had to try to figure out where the best location is right now to provide the best service for the entire area. Because once you start moving things, then you have to look at, if it continues to grow a certain way, at that point, you're looking at a third station, possibly even a fourth, depending, if you do really bad at planning, where the stations go. So that's where we kind of looked at that area.
I understand. I was just looking at the map, the satellite view, like at Park Lawn and South Old State, if you were just to go a little further north, where the access road to the Delaware County water reservoir tank there, there is a vacant corner there. Now, again, I'm just asking the question, was there any other sites reviewed or proposed or thought of or anything like that? Just was about plain question.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Bud.
I do think it is also nice that with the proposal, it is on township land, so that's not an additional cost that we'd be incurring of spending, $1 million and trying to buy land someplace. Please, keep them coming.
Sorry, one more question. I'm assuming that this is kind of a first off communication about this, but as far as the neighbors in that area, they would have to be most that some of those homes kind of are on that cul-de-sac in the upper right-hand corner.
It would be communicated to the whole township, but we can definitely be intentional about speaking to the adjacent neighbors. That's a good idea. Thank you.
And just, I pulled up the aerial view just for location. So this is South Old State and Orange Road. Here's our existing fire station. This is where the Veterans Memorial is, and then we would propose the new station here. So it would be a bit of a township complex. We would have the Public Works facility, in theory, the Parks facility, and the fire station. So nice to consolidate it all. And to your point, we don't have to, we have the ability to not purchase additional land at this time for this project.
Michelle, the parcel just to the east of that?
This?
Yeah, is that township land as well?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Now, we're trying our best to not take
Save
down.
the trees.
Save the trees, yes. I think a little bit might have to be shaved off for the project, but we're anticipating not impeding it too significantly. But again, we won't really understand that once until we go through the
Right.
engineering
Yeah,
phase,
there's a whole
so,
engineering design process.
yeah.
Any other public comment? Well, if anyone has any comment while we're still discussing, please feel free to come up to the podium. Any additional questions from the board? Oh, go right ahead.
Good evening, I'm Tim Beamans with App Architecture, and we appreciate the opportunity to work with the township and fire department on the project over the last few months. So I am responsible for putting the estimate together. So just to answer Ms. Fausti's comment about whether it's value engineering in the project. So we have constructed this budget with some line items under this total gross building area cost, which is $9,157,000. So there's a segment there we talk about our site work, the training tower, the portable doors, and other rooms. We had looked at this as sort of a base bid approach, if you will, to what would be, the most value engineered cost approach to this building, which would be, first of all, asphalt shingles versus a metal roof. And so we talked a lot about the value of a metal roof over time versus asphalt, but, that's why we're showing these as add alternates, if you will, so you can kind of see what we get down the bottom line, this really represents everything that the fire department and township believe is the best for a 50-year building, for everything we're trying to accomplish. That's the number, but just under $14 million. But if we really needed to look at some ways to reduce some costs, that would be one of them, would be looking at the roof material. The other one, just to name, would be the four-fold bay doors alternate. What that means is a normal station like all the stations that the township currently has, standard overhead doors that roll up. And they're slower than other options, and they have a tendency to get hit a lot and have to be repaired. A four-fold door is simply a panel door that opens like bifold in this way. They're significantly more expensive, but they have definitely a payback over time because it's a first-time higher capital cost to purchase them, but they require very little maintenance, and they also hardly ever get hit, only because when they're open, they're fully open. The reason doors get hit a lot is because sometimes they're partially open in the summertime, they might be 3/4 up, and they're out of the line of sight of someone in a vehicle moving out, so sometimes the tops get to the bottom, the door gets taken out, things of that nature. So there's a lot that has to do with just the operation of the door and human nature, if you will. So the four-fold has really answered that question. And stations where we put those in, departments have been more than 100% satisfied with the operation. Very glad that they did that and made that investment at the beginning. So really, that's just a few things I wanted to.
And I know, and I've just been here 3 years, but I know I've signed a fair amount of checks for repairing the overhead doors. So if we can just spend the cost for the better
Yeah.
doors that are going to, not get hit, that would
And so
save us money.
that $160,000 listed is the premium cost per door to upgrade to the four-fold for each door. There's 8 doors total, so, that's, do the math, that's about $20,000 a door.
Okay.
So that's, again, you could stay with overhead
And as regards to the metal roof, what's the lifespan of a metal roof? I know shingles is maybe
Yeah.
15, 20?
Yeah, so a metal roof typically, so the metal roofs come with a finish warranty, so the paint color is typically warranted for about 25 years. But then from that on, and that's the warranty, so that's gonna be the minimum amount you're gonna get out of that life. But we usually say it's about a 40-year, let's just say a 40-year roof. Hopefully the life of the building, hopefully it's a 50-year roof, you know, in the best case scenario. Shingles, you're going to be probably putting 2 to 3 roofs on over the life of that same
Right.
period. So I don't know if anyone else had any other questions, but other than that, there's just a couple things I wanted to bring up to your attention on the way the estimate is put together.
Thanks.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So was there any, so I had the same question as a resident did earlier about a possible different location, because I do feel like since the township has grown, we do need more service more towards the middle of the township, and this isn't still towards the southern end. Is there any other area that this could be placed where there's property available that we could buy or look at that would be more centralized to more residents for response times and things?
I mean, we can always look at land. I mean, unfortunately, land's not cheap these days, so that would be a much higher cost. Based on earlier studies, we see that this location does work. Do I think we should have a third station in the future? Probably, but I think that can be placed in a area that, you know, if we do some type of triangle of some sorts in the future.
And we do have Delaware County Medic 3, right,
Yeah.
out of, right at the tracks in Lewis Center.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that
Mhm.
is,
But it's not
there's
fire.
medical, but not fire, correct?
Yeah, it doesn't look like, it is kind of shoehorned in on that property, and there's not, like, if we wanted to expand for some reason in the future, I don't think it would really be possible there.
As far as staffing goes, or expand?
Like, expand like operations,
Okay.
sometimes it's cheaper to expand on an existing site than start a whole new fire
Yeah,
station.
well, we are adding so there's one or more, an additional bay? Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we are proposing an additional bay for this new station, which in theory would be able to serve more apparatus, more people. So there is plans for that type of growth.
And, let's see. So are we sure that the payments are sustainable over 10 years, the 600? I mean, how do you know for sure that a levy's not going to fail, or, you know, something, we're gonna have, like, we have right now millions of dollars of roads that need to be funded somehow that aren't being funded. So it's hard to pick which one, you know, is more important, or what if we have an unknown expense and then we can't make our payments? That was a concern of mine. It might not be sustainable to pay back.
I don't think, I mean, to your first question, we can never guarantee for any of our projects, really. I mean, we do significant road projects and parks projects. I mean, we've been really fortunate with our levy situation that our levies do pass. We're not intending to increase the fire levy for this project. So hopefully we can continue our renewals we have 2 levies right now with the fire, for the fire fund. And again, if we continue to have the support that we are already receiving, I'd like to think it's promising. But I mean, I can't guarantee, we can never guarantee any level for
Well,
any
we've never borrowed that
department.
much money for like a parks, not for years, a parks project, or.
To my
typically
knowledge,
have
I
the
don't,
money
yeah,
up
at least
front,
since
yeah.
I've been here, I don't think we've financed anything to this
Yeah,
this
so
length.
usually we know we're getting the money for sure. This is
Yeah.
just a huge expense, and then typically it ends up being more than you're even expecting it.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure all the residents are aware of this, because I don't want this to cost, you know, any future fire levies.
Sure.
Where people see a brand-new fire station,
Yeah.
and they think we don't need the money, and next thing you know, I mean, that would be.
Well, and I think the banks wouldn't even, I mean, we have to have some security to that, or something to assure the money, or else they wouldn't grant us the loan. Is that?
Well, yes, we will be, you know, we'll go through a review process. Now, if you wanted to go to the voters, but it would be additional revenue, so it would be higher taxes for them. But that would be a guaranteed revenue source for you for X amount of period of time that you've set forth the terms of your sale of your bonds.
Do we have that, any information on that for putting a bond issue, like a 15-year bond issue, how much it would be for the residents per year?
No, we do not have any of that information currently. Most recent discussions with regards to the roads, 1 million would roughly cost about $35 per 100,000 of market value in the township. So if that helps you
For
out.
how many years, though?
Well, if we were able to put down the 4 million that we, said we could probably do, and we'd need what was it, $1.2 million per year, that's about, $1 million for like a 10-year.
Yeah, just for example, in Sunbury, they had a .78 mil bond that will raise $9 million over 15 years, and it's $27 per $100,000 per valuation, just to give a rough estimate.
There might be a middle road there, though, is that, currently we could finance this, as we've discussed, out of our current resources, and I think, that is, more cost-effective and more efficient use of our taxpayer dollars that we've been entrusted with. But there's nothing to say that I don't think we could refinance in the future and then make that a bond levy. So if we found out 5 years in that, we wanted to get a lower rate, we could potentially then, and we wanted to commit the resources that are currently being used for the debt service proposed, that we could then ask the voters for a levy for basically paying off the remainder of the bonds, and that would then free up general fund revenue, but with the, additional tax
Cost
millage
the
at that point.
taxpayers.
And we can, hopefully, in those coming years, we will be able to be a little more creative with our additional revenue sources that we're working on all these economic development tools for. I just don't have numbers today, but the way our projections are going with them is that we will have revenue to do projects like these, to an extent. I'm not saying
It's just
we're-
like your household budget,
Yeah.
before you make a major expenditure, you want to make sure you have enough revenue to make it sustainable.
yeah, and I don't
it's
think we would
hard.
be granted the loan if we couldn't.
And have we been approved for the loan yet? Have we
No,
looked
no,
preliminary?
our financial advisors have recommended us to put a pause on this until we go out to bid and understand the actual cost of the project. And then we would most likely lock the loan in later this year.
But we could be preliminarily approved. Would we
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that
and
first?
those, I guess, then the analysis is, the financial advisors believe this is what we could get today.
They do think that we'd be approved for this?
Yes.
And they've looked at all of the information?
Mm-hmm.
So to that point, Michelle, what would be the next step?
Yeah, so Silas, I might have you help me explain the next steps with the RFQ, if you don't mind. Okay.
All right, so next steps would be to solidify the process which we'd like to use, which we've discussed using a CMAR, construction manager at risk, to help guide through the process. That CMAR process would start with the approval by the board of an RFQ that will allow us to seek out qualified individuals or qualified firms to choose from. Upon receiving those qualifications, we would probably interview, grade, and then interview our top three-ish firms that we'd like to consider working with. From that, we'd select one of them to work with. They would then become engaged in the process to design and construct everything, and would guide the township through every step of the way, along with designing, working with the architects and all those components that would go into building the station, and help us get out to bid and obviously see it through with inspections and all that stuff as well.
And would we need to be spending money to renovate the old building for the maintenance, for use of for maintenance use? Additional cost?
I don't think not immediately. I believe the operations department has some ideas in mind, but that would be an incremental approach. I don't know if that's fair to say.
Yeah, very true. I think initially the building as it sits, although it's not designed for a 24/7 fire operation, it is designed very well. Considerable upgrade for a 40-hour-a-week parks operation. So it would be a plug and play ready, if you will, for our parks department. I think we would definitely consider repurposing and reusing and upgrading and modifying some of the interiors and some of the current components and amenities that are in there to better suit the Parks Department over time. But I would not anticipate that being a situation where we come to the board and say, hey, we need X amount of money to do all this stuff at once. It would probably be, to use a bad metaphor, taking a bite of an elephant, or how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time, right? We just probably do a little bit this year, a little bit more next year, just kind of slowly chip away at the needs of the building to better outfit it for a parks facility.
And you could probably do some of the work yourself, right?
Yeah, you'll have
By the staff.
Yeah, law enforcement account stuff that would be under the legal limits permitted by the ORC. But yeah, there's a lot of things we could do in-house
Painting and
to
stuff,
kind of
yeah.
just slowly modify it into a parks facility from a fire station.
Okay, because I don't think I'd be in favor of approving this and then,
Oh,
millions
yeah,
of
yeah,
dollars to
totally,
renovate
yeah.
that in the beginning.
Yeah, and we did just replace the roof there too, so, so there's some extra longevity.
Some longevity there, yeah.
Thanks.
So we can spare an extra 600,000 in our fire budget and an extra 600,000 from the general fund for 10 years. Is that right?
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, today was really just education. We've been streaming this on our YouTube channel, so if anyone that was unable to make it, I'm happy to pass the link on. We can post it on our Facebook page. We did meet with the Public Safety Volunteer Committee as they helped us review the presentation that was in front of you today. And there was a lot of good feedback. I believe a couple of you guys were there at that meeting. So, yeah, I think this is just really education. I'm not asking the board to take any action today. You will see the RFQ most likely at the next regular trustee meeting.
And is there any concern about access on that corner property? Because it
To-
is.
on Orange Road?
Yeah, it is a really.
You guys would have to put in a light that would time with
Yes,
the.
we're going to, so that, and all the firefighters can speak on this, because when they pull out, even with lights, and sirens going, it's, I'm surprised we haven't had an accident yet there with our vehicles, because those vehicles that are trying to come up fast on the right-hand side to get over, fortunately, we haven't had anything, but that is a bad area for us. So being down below, what we'll have to do is we'll work with the lights to allow them to, once we get a call, the lights would stop all traffic. We'll have a light that's installed back past the station, so it'd be east of the station. That would stop traffic there before our drive to allow us to get out and either go left or go right. So that will help limit our hazards of pulling out on the main road.
Okay. And we checked the deed restrictions on the property. I think it's okay because we
Yeah.
can use it for township purposes, but I can't remember.
You just
years
can't
ago.
move that little township hall.
Is that the condition?
Right,
Okay.
pretty much.
We will not move that. And we'll be able to have nicer parking for Veterans Memorial because right
Yeah.
now we just have 2 paved spots.
Yes, we will
or
have
ADA
additional
spots
parking with this.
That'll.
Would you
yeah,
mind pulling up the
Yeah.
plan again, just to have that up there?
It'll serve both of the spaces. So that'll be nicer.
Yep.
And I drive by Veterans Memorial multiple times a day because I live in that area. Have not seen a ton of public out there, so I would love it if when the guys are taking walks and they do their 3F training, we utilize the outside space there and run around the memorial and have people there. So, and I know there's often residents that will come and visit the fire station and visit our firefighters, and so that would be an opportunity for them. I'm here to visit the firefighters, and then maybe I'll go check out the Veterans Memorial at the same time, and it would be exciting I know our fall open house, October open house is typically at Station 1, and we do a lot of fun stuff there, but it would be neat if, we could rotate every other year and utilize all the spaces and,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
So can we do a post on Facebook, the renderings, and just ask people to submit input, maybe put something in a newsletter?
Yeah, I think
there's room.
if the board's okay with it, I'd like to just share this YouTube link too, in addition
Yeah.
to the slides. And we can post it on our website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to make sure we get a lot of feedback, because I want to prevent any issues where people think that we're building, like 20 years ago, the quote-unquote Taj Mahal fire station, where a lot of people drove by and says, oh, you spent too much money on that, and so we aren't going to vote for the next fire levy. I want to avoid all those
Sure.
perceptions that could end up with no fire department, and
Yep.
that's my concern. I want everyone to be educated about it and buy into it, or at least over half people. 51%.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, any other questions or comments from members of the public? Anything that, came up while you were listening to the presentation since then?
Thank you for coming.
Yes,
those of
thank you.
from the
We
public.
really
Very
appreciate
much
it.
appreciate your time.
And we do have open house hours after this at the station, if anyone wants to attend.
Until
Yeah.
7 PM?
Yes.
Is it 7 or 7:30?
What did we?
Something said 7:30.
I think it was 7:30 based
Okay.
on when
Okay.
we were done. We didn't know we'd be done with
Yeah.
this, but. so-
And that's at 7307.
Visiting
South Old
time is
State,
done at
is that right?
9, so everybody has to be out by 9 though. so.
And that's at the northeast corner of South Old State and Orange Road. That
Correct.
one's the stop by.
Correct.
Very close to
Great.
here.
Yeah.
And thank you
Thanks,
to our
Chief.
firefighters for coming out and joining us at the meeting.
Yeah, thank you. So if there's no further discussion amongst the board, we can go ahead and close our special meeting
Yeah.
today.
Yep.
All right. Meeting closed.